now as you go in time, you will fluctuate. Your old vasanas, your old tendencies will come back, and sometimes they will come back with a vengeance. Do you understand? Stronger. They actually don't come out stronger, but they feel like. Why? Because now you have contrast. Like once you have tasted really good food, then bad food tastes worse. So now when you have that emotional state or that state of stress arise or those thoughts, you're just more aware, so you notice it more. So it feels like, oh, you are lower, but you're not. You're just being more aware now. Do you understand? So it's awakening is not the ultimate, it's just the beginning. Yeah. So as the Buddha said, awakening is not the end, it is the beginning of life. So there are stages of consciousness. Clear? Stages of awakening. Awaken, and then we have cosmic, and we have Deva, God's goddess, and then we have unity, and then God the Absolute, and Brahma Sthiti Chetana. So there's distinct stages and spectrum within the evolution of one's journey. Clear or not? But within that, as we have, and we are having these experiences, you have that, and then you come back out, you come back. And where do you land? You land at the level which you have been most consistently maintaining. That's where you land. Clear? Now when you land back at that state, now you have a memory now. You have seen something. Clear? You have this taste of nectar in your mouth. But now you must support yourself. That's why consistency or practice, consistency of study. So adhyaya, ishvara pranidhanatvi, kriya yoga, kriya. More and more kriya in your life. Kriya is what? Evolutionary action. Evolutionary action. Yes? Dharma. Every moment, evolutionary action. When you kriya starts to dominate in your life, more and more consistent evolutionary action, the stages start to become stabilized in you. Yes, they start to become stabilized. So now you have those experiences still, but your line is not low. You are maintaining it. Now within that you might still fluctuate, but the fluctuations start to become lesser. The gap is longer when you have those fluctuations, and those dips are not so deep down anymore. You can bounce back quicker. And as you have that, then you start to progress. So the first stage of what we call the awakening is really you becoming free of the ego mind. That's the primary stage, what we call the first stage in your illumination, that you developing a certain level of autonomy over your mind. Over your mind meaning what? That you begin to meet yourself before the mind as Atman, soul. You start to see, it's the mind, and you don't take your mind personally. Clear? You don't take the mind personally, and you can see the bluff that is the ego, because ego doesn't exist at all. It's a fabrication within the thought structure. It's an afterthought. So you have thinking, and then the final thought is I am. All of this thinking. Clear? So ego is an afterthought. It's a product of thought structure. So what we call the awakened state, the first awake stage within our own illumination journey, is the transcendence over ego mind. But within that there is fluctuations. Clear? You have these experiences, and when you are in your beginning journey of evolution, what you will see that your consumption patterns will start to change. Clear or not? What you put into your body will start to change. You become more conscious of what you're putting into your body. You will naturally start to become more liberal, in the sense, not political, please. They have corrupted that word, but meaning somebody can't just hijack the word liberal, it's so strange. But liberal in the sense, more accepting of people, more forgiving of people's different choices and their preferences of life. Yes, you become naturally more adaptive. You start to become naturally more appreciative. These qualities start to arise in you. These are all qualities of love. You naturally start to feel more humble, your natural sincerity. Clear? And within that, you will still have moments of weakness, moments of desperation, moments of where you feel like you have lost everything. This will happen. And so you should not judge when this happens. It's very important you realize, okay, declare in that moment when you have those experiences, just declare, I'm just fluctuating. Scientifically also, when you go from being in just swimming in that soup versus cognizing, just declaring, you shift neural activity, right? The neural function of Cognition is your prefrontal cortex. So even when you are in an emotional state of being angry versus declaring, anger is arising in me, you have shifted neural activity from the midbrain to the prefrontal cortex. Just even that little shift of perception of how you word it. Clear or not? So you start to shift this and you start to be aware of this. And herein paramount importance to have a community and have a path, have a guru, a teacher, very helpful. Clear? So because a lot of people give up here. They give up here. Do you understand? They have the taste and they think they've made it. And everything feels great. And then they have the fall from grace again. And now they judge themselves. And then the ego comes back and it's like nothing works, or I'm worthless, this is all bullshit. Do you understand? Or it will just never happen for me. Clear? And there is some other people who stay a little longer and they develop a little bit more validation, and there they can have spiritual ego. They also give up. But now they have a little bit more awareness, a little bit more magnetism, a little bit more information, a little bit more emotional stability. Clear? So here the trap of spiritual ego can come, that stage, and then they again go slide down. Right? So this experience fluctuation is a shared experience. Clear? But in the moment when you are having that moment of Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness, transcendent state, when you are having the Turiya experience, in that moment you are it. Which can be, it can happen during a meditation, it can happen during a Kriya. Clear? You are dipping into non-local self, God self, and those different experiences can arise. But the more you have these experiences, the more you are refining. Clear? The more you are stabilizing, the more you are expanding your consciousness. Yes, so that's how we expand and evolve. And it's more and more. When that starts to dominate in your timeline, when those experiences start to dominate, then you have more memory of that instead of the memory of not being in that state. So then your life is filled with this value now, more and more. Right now what is there? In your memory, because your mind is fundamentally memory, made up of memory, the memory of not being in alignment is dominating than in being in alignment. Yes. But the power of the experience of being in alignment is much more. The data value, it occupies much more energy. So when you have few more of those experiences, they start to dominate. They have more power, Shakti attached to them. Yes, so consistency is the key. I've never met anybody in my life, and I've lived very long, who stayed consistent and did not stabilize, did not evolve. I have yet to meet someone who really was consistent in the full values aspect of teachings, full value, not just an isolated thread of it. Got it or not? Not just an isolated value and calling it yoga. I'm talking about the full value application of the teachings. I've not yet met somebody who did not progress at their own pace, at their own level. But progression is inevitable. Alright. So it's very important when you do have these fluctuations, be aware, don't judge it, don't defend it. Because if you judge it, you will defend it. That's just the natural knee-jerk reaction of all judgment is defense. Yes, so cognize it, stabilize. Just stay with the practice and you bounce back. Keep your head up.